All right, so we're going to do example 4. So this is 9.5 part 2. So we only have one example left, which is example 4. So before we do that one, we got to talk about the signs of trig values when we're in different quadrants. So in quadrant 1, all of our trig functions are positive. When we're in quadrant 2, it's just sine and it's reciprocal that's positive. All the other ones are negative. When we're in quadrant 3, sine, cosine are negative, tangent's positive. And when we're in quadrant 4, sine and tangent are negative and cosine's positive. So an easy way that we can remember that is starting in the first quadrant, all of them are positive. In the second, just sine. In the third, it is just tangent. And in the fourth, it is cosine. So you can remember it as all students take calculus. So that just tells you which trig function is positive in different quadrants. So we're going to be solving given any angle theta. So step 1 is we want to find the reference angle. Then we're going to evaluate the trig function at the reference angle. And then the last step is we have to determine the sign. So the very last thing is we just have to double check to make sure, is this going to be a positive or negative number? So let's look at example 4 for A. We want to find the reference angle for negative 240. So this is what we did yesterday. So we're looking for the reference angle, which is theta prime. So we want to turn this into the positive coterminal angle first. So we're going to add 360 to it. So when we add 360, we get 120. So we're technically looking for the tangent of 120 degrees. So on our graph, 120 would be in the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant, we use the formula 180 minus theta, which theta here is the angle that we're talking about. So we're going to do 180 minus 120, which would be 60. So we're looking for the tangent of 60 degrees. Now to find the tangent of 60, we're going to go back to that chart that we kind of skipped in section 9.1. So I'm going to put it in the notes here, and you can screenshot it. So we're going to go back to this chart. So this is in 9.1 with our special right triangles. So all of these are going to be special angles. So it'll end up being like 30, 60, 90, something like that, or 45. So tangent of 60, we're going to go to our graph, go to our chart here, tangent, and 60 would overlap at square root 3. So the tangent of 60 degrees is square root 3. Now the very last step is we have to check the sign of it. Is it positive square root 3 or negative square root 3? So we have all students take calculus. So we are in the second quadrant. Only sine and its reciprocal are positive in the second quadrant. So that means tangent is going to be negative. So our answer is negative square root 3. So let's take a look at B. So we're looking for the cosecant of 17 pi over 6. Well, the first thing we need to do is find our reference angle. And when we're given radians to find the reference angle, we want to convert it to degrees. So we're going to multiply it by 180 over pi. So we're going to simplify this. The pi's cancel. 6 goes into 180 30 times. So we're just multiplying 30 times 17. We can write that down. Let's do 17 times 3, and then we can just attach a 0 at the end of it. So 7 times 3 is 21. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So it would be 510. So we're looking for cosecant of 510. Well, this is more than one way around, more than one time around our circle here. So to find our reference angle, we want to subtract 360 to find a coterminal angle that's still on our circle. So we can kind of see which quadrant we're in. We go around 360, we need to figure out how much more we have to go around after that. So let's subtract 360. So when we subtract, we get 150. So we're looking for the cosecant of 150. Now, 150 would be in our second quadrant, so we go around 250 degrees. In the second quadrant, we use 180 minus theta to find our reference angle. So we're going to use 180 minus 150, which gives us 30. So our reference angle is 30 degrees. So I am looking for the cosecant of 30 degrees. So I'm going to go to my chart. Cosecant tells me that it's the reciprocal of sine. So if sine at 30 degrees is 1/2, I need to flip it to find the reciprocal. So that would be 1, instead of 1/2, it'd be 2/1. So last thing we want to do is check the sign. So we have all students take calculus. So in the second quadrant, sine and its reciprocal are the only ones that are positive. Well, what's the reciprocal of sine? CSC, cosecant. So that means that this is going to be a positive 2/1, which is just positive 2. Okay, so let's look at the last two examples. So number 9. So first thing we want to find is the reference angle. So when it gives us a -1, we want to find the positive coterminal angle. So we're going to add 360. So this would be 150. So we're looking for the cosine of 150. So I'm going to draw that, see which quadrant we're in. This is 90, this is 180. We're going to be somewhere in between those two. So we're in the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant, we use our formula 180 minus theta, which is 180 minus 150. So we get 30. So we're looking for the cosine of 30 degrees. So I'm going to go to my chart. I'm going to pull it back up here. So the cosine of 30 would be square root 3/2. So this is square root 3/2. Now we need to figure out the sign of this. So we have all students take calculus. Well, in the second quadrant, only sine and its reciprocal, cosecant, are positive. So that would mean that cosine's negative in the second quadrant. So this will be negative square root 3/2. So just to put it in words a little bit, maybe it'll help with the steps. Step 1 is to find the reference angle. So that's what we did yesterday in class. So we use the formulas to find the reference angle. Step 2 is to use the chart. So I'm going to say solve using chart. And then step 3 is to check the sign. So these are the 3 steps we're doing. You got to find the reference angle. Sometimes finding the reference angle is easier than other times. Sometimes we have to convert it to degrees. You don't have to end up converting it back because all of the values on our chart are in degrees. So you don't have to convert it back to anything. But because you just end up evaluating, so you'll end up with a number, but then after you find it on the chart, you have to check the sign for your final answer. So let's do number 10. So we have a radian, so we want to convert this to degrees. So we're going to multiply it by 180 over pi. The pi's cancel. 4 goes into 180 45 times. So I have 45 times 11. If you don't know that off the top of your head, write it down. So 1 times 5 would be 5. 1 times 4 is 4. Bring a 0 down. 5, 4. So this would be 495. So we're finding the secant of 495. Well, it's a little bit of an issue because 495 is bigger than 130, so it's more than one way around the unit circle, more than one time. So we need to find out how much more we have to go around. So we're going to subtract 360. So this would be 135. So we're going to go around 135 degrees more. Remember, this is 90, this is 180, so 135 is going to put us in the second quadrant. All of these questions have ended up in the second quadrant, but they're not always going to be there. So we want to find the reference angle. In the second quadrant, we use 180 minus theta. So this would be 180 minus 135, which gives us 45. So we're looking for when our secant is 45 degrees. So secant, we need to know that it goes with cosine. So on my chart, I'm going to look for cosine. Oh, it gives us secant. Perfect. So secant of 45, we go to secant, 45. That would be square root 2. So secant of 45, I'm going to write it down here so we can see it all. So we can see the whole example. Secant of 45 is square root 2, according to our chart. But we're not just checking secant of 45, we got to check secant of 135 or 495, which is going to be a little bit different. You got to check the sign. So we need to know all students take calculus. In the second quadrant, only sine and its reciprocal are positive, so sine and cosecant. So it means everything else is negative, which means secant is negative. So our answer would be negative square root 2. That's it for the notes today. Do not forget to turn in the notes. And continue to work on the homework.